Welcome. This is your invitation to freedom, the podcast that challenges the traditional left-right paradigm and explores a narrative centered on unity and reclaiming our rights.
Welcome, Sarah. So good to have you again.
Hi. Yeah, so good to see you, Lisa. So glad to be back with you guys.
Nice, very nice. And you have, I don't know how long it's been. It seems like dog years, but you have been so occupied with BirthRight and getting it into post and editing. You got to fill us in, bring us up to date. What's happened?
Okay, well, this project, of course, started back, and I think we released the idea that we were going to do this film last year in May. So we're coming up almost a year later. The film will be done by then, I promise. It's not going to take a whole year to make, but it's going to come very close to it. It was a big undertaking. Anybody who knows anything about what's been going on in our nation for these past, thousands of years, it's not something quick and easy that you can just cover in an hour's time. Most of these seminars that you see go on for 3 days straight because there's so much to learn. So trying to take all of that information and compile it into an hour-and-a-half film, it was just impossible. So I'm happy to report that I have taken 6 hours of footage and I have cut it down to about 4 hours, and we're going to make, or I guess 3 hours. We're going to make 2 episodes now, an hour and a half each, and it's going to cover everything that we've been learning from the incorporation of the United States, our straw man or our vessel, our persona, whatever you want to call it, the basically incorporation of ourselves. It goes into the fraud of the IRS and the non-governmental agency known as the Federal Reserves. And it just really talks about, how our natural rights have been removed from us slowly. We haven't even noticed what has been going on all these years. And so this film is just a big awakening. It's to teach people a little bit of the law that we have lost and to encourage people to wake up and to learn how to reclaim those freedoms. But you can't reclaim something that you don't know has been lost. And so this film is really going to shine a light on those specific topics.
I love that. And I love the hope there is and the real cry for us. And in the series that you did leading up to the film that we're going to talk about here, you say, if you don't defend your rights, you don't have them.
That's right. You're literally only as free as you know to be. And there's always that quote that gets used over and over again. The best slaves are the ones who think they're free. And that's so true, because if you've got a nice house and you've got a nice car and, money in your bank account, what do you have to worry about? But then you have something like the COVID pandemic come around, and all of a sudden they take your right to make money away. They force you to close your business or, kick your kids out of school or whatever. And then all of a sudden you look around, you're like, how did that happen so fast? Well, it's happened because we have been so compliant over the little things over all of these years. And they also like to use the fear. Oh, and the patriotism, do the good thing, protect the others. Or even like when FDR, I'm thinking about that right now because I was just working on that section about him taking our gold. It was do the patriotic thing, help us get out of this depressive state. And so we all think that when the government asks us to do something, that means that we're forfeiting our rights for something for the betterment of society or the betterment of mankind. And little do we realize that those things never go away. They tell you that it's for a short time only, and then it just keeps belaboring and continues. And now we've wondered where that went. So what we did with these little 3-part snippets of film that can go see on the Invitation to Freedom is we've kind of taken the big idea of birthright and we've broken it down into really manageable size chunks. So instead of sitting through an hour and a half of a film, you can watch a 16-minute short recap. These films are not in any way a part of BirthRight in the sense that this is not the same footage that you're going to see in BirthRight, but the topics what we're discussing is very similar, if not the same. And so it's a good thing to take some time to watch in preparation to actually see the film Birthright when it does come out. Because especially for people who may be brand new to this, it won't be such a, shock to them to hear some of the things in Birthright because they have actually previously watched it in these 3 mini episodes.
And I see them parts 1, 2, and 3 as historical pieces. It's like getting the benefit of taking a course in history, and it's real palatable. It's not over your head. It's not confusing. Yeah. The system, the administrative system is confusing, but our standing on our rights and who we are as people and not citizens necessarily is very clearly defined the way you talk about it. And I think you're so articulate. I've watched them so many times, and trust me, I am really enamored with your ability to do that, and very excited about the film, because I don't think you can fully appreciate what's happened if you don't know what happened. And then what can we do about it? And part of what we can do is come together, and we have remedies. And we can share those remedies. And that's why we created the Invitation to Freedom platform, to be able to do that. And I want to ask you a question. This is not rehearsed. How factual, how vetted, how sure are we that what you are telling us in Birthright and in these 3-part series is real and true? Like, has it been vetted?
It's been very vetted. And in fact, I have intentionally hired a script writer who knows nothing about this and who has never been a part of any of this type of movement, organization, whatever you want to call it, because I needed somebody with the mindset of somebody who really believes in their government still, right? Who thinks that they're there for the greater good. And I think some of it, not everybody in the government is evil. I want to just say that there are people who truly love our country and want to get it back and want to fix it. Okay. So, but I needed somebody's mind that has not been in as deep as I have, to make sure that we do vet what's being said and that we can back it up. Now, the hardest thing about this film, right, is we all know that whoever writes history is typically the victor, or has the opportunity to publish. So right now we're looking at school books that are starting to talk about the J6 events. And what do those school books say? They say it was an insurrection. It was Trump supporters. Everything that they say in these new textbooks, I could totally say that absolutely did not happen. It is very biased. It is one-sided, but the young generation reading that has no clue because they did not live it. And so a lot of the stuff that's being said in the film, you actually cannot find a publication that might say exactly what we're saying. But we know that it's vetted because we have letters of people that lived at that time talking about their experience. And you have to go back to the people who lived during that time, and you have to listen to what their thoughts were and what their opinions and ideas were. And then you can kind of create and form your own. We know something is wrong. We know that there is a trust out there because we've seen people actually use it, whether they used it in the proper way or not. They certainly discharged a debt with it. They certainly paid a rent with it, or I know a guy who set up an account on Amazon with it. It's like, we know there's money in an account, although you can't like physically type in and the United States government's going to show you, here it is, and this is what it is, and this is this, you know what I'm saying? Like some of this stuff is very hard. It's like bunny trails, and like you start connecting the dots. And I think the hardest part, and let me tell you this, the hardest part of this film, I'm very used to doing films in a very methodical order. So it starts this year, then we go this year, then these events all kind of happen and they stem from the other. This thing is so, you start talking about this specific event, and I start finding myself saying, well, this needs to go over here with this event, but they're together, but then over here. And it's just like this almost like look at a board and you have like your strings drawing all over the place, and it's just a spaghetti mess at the end because so many of the events are intertwined together, and it's very difficult to separate them into these cute little, summed up chapters. And that's been the most challenging thing about the film, is how does it flow and how is it going to be laid out in a way that people will comprehend the progression of it, because a lot of events that happened in the past, way in the past, you start to see back now in the future. And it's just, that's been a little difficult to do. But back to your original question of, is it vetted? It is, and it's told in a way that the mind of a person who is watching this, that has no clue what's been going on, will easily be able to comprehend it. And we're showing the proof behind it, so that it's not just a biased film only showing one side of the story.
One question I have for you, and it's come up, is anyone controlling the narrative of this film? Has anyone given you donations or money that can sway this one way or another, that their influence is going to be felt?
I am so happy to say that no, this film is not owned by one individual, by one group. There's not one heavy-handed investor that has more sway than another. When we launched this, we wanted it to be a story by the people. And we didn't want it to be a story by one group, by one process, by one individual, even a story by me, even when you and I were talking, Lisa, we had different ways of maybe constructing this story and where is it going to go. And we've kind of melded those two. So even like my initial idea is not even what this is. It's got flares of your suggestions and even flares of Scott's and our DP Dean. And so it was a real like coming together from multiple voices. But what's so incredible is that this is actually my first project that has been publicly funded. Every project that I have worked on has been a for-hire project, whether it was a foundation that hired me to tell their story or an individual who hired me to tell her or his story. This one has been completely a story by the people. And so what I have used is different aspects of the voices that are in the film, how they teach or what they've said or the knowledge that they bring to the table. I structured questions around that. And then what actually makes the cut is, what is going to be comprehensible by the general population? So
Right.
If something is too deep, I'm not going to put it into this film, because you have to take time to explore that. And there's no time when we have so many topics to cover. When there's a little bit of different opinions going on between the different voices, none of these voices are connected or necessarily in support. And I don't want to say in support because it's all truth, right? So they're all in support of the truth. But when you, in a documentary, you will see different voices, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are tied in with each other. So every voice in this film is independent, meaning they came in independently. I sat them down. I asked them questions that they could speak on, and they gave me their truth to it. And it wasn't somebody at the top feeding me questions. And it wasn't me sitting there saying, well, you said it this way, but can you rephrase it? Or I'm really looking more for this, because there's a lot of documentarians that will do that. They'll like push a narrative onto even the guests that they're interviewing. So there was none of that. And to this day, this film, the largest funders, they get an executive producer credit, but they have had no say in what music, who is kept in and who is cut out, what aspects of the film are kept in and what aspects are cut out. They've had none of that. That's been decided between Scott and I based on, again, is it comprehensible and can we fit it in time?
Nice. And I think it's critical. I applaud that. I really do. I think it's critical that people realize the framing and the integrity that this is coming to you at.
So
I love that. And I remember when we first talked about this and we said how important it is to create something to tell the true story, birthright.
Yeah.
Live free, born free, live free, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that there's been so much manipulation of the narrative, and that the controlling the narrative, and that the true intention to deliver the truth
Yeah.
for us as Americans, and it doesn't affect people outside of America. It's critical that we comprehend this. And the fact that you brought up that the school books aren't actually, you know, it's revisionist history, right? It's important.
And a lot of this stuff you can't actually prove unless you lived it. And you have to have both sides of the story. And right now we're only getting one side, the media that controls the narrative. We're getting
Well,
their
and look
story.
at how many things in our own lives right now that you're being told you're living through something, but you're being told something else.
Right.
Like everyone listening to this right now, think about that just for a moment and comprehend the depth of importance that we figure out who we are and what we can do about standing in our own moral,
Right.
sentient being.
Because you can be living through something and seeing it with your own eyes, and then you get those voices that come in, the influence from all the sides that start to tell you, you know, manipulating or brainwashing, and, you know, maybe it's not what I'm interpreting this to be. Maybe it's not what I'm seeing. And it's, you know, absolutely your gut instinct is telling you this is not right. You know, and I think that has been plaguing America for so long, is this like subtle brainwashing that's been going on to
Well,
make us think this is normal.
I think it's that, and it's also the fear that if you say anything that you'll be
Yeah.
branded a conspiracy theorist,
Yeah.
or a Trump supporter, or you know, a liberal lefty. And for us, we don't care. We don't care what side of the aisle you're from. This is not
Right.
a political thing. This
No.
is for us to unify and to come together and have the ability to look at it, and then in community talk about it and not cancel one another. And that was the intention when it first happened, you know, May last year. And we said, you know, we're going to start trying to fund this. And we did it through this platform. And then you created these fantastic 3-part series. I really invite everybody to explore this and realize that you're in a safe place to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the unification, that the intent of this film is, it is to speak to every man and woman, child, teenager, whatever. It is not based on your political views, your religious views. You know, if we're going to be considered Americans, what does that mean? You know, if we want to get back to our republic, how do we do that? And we certainly can't do it being divided by, you know, our politics, our faith, our beliefs, whatever. It has to, we have to find that unification, that one piece that unifies us, and that's our country. We all want the same thing. We all want, you know, good food. We all want healthy relationships. We want our health. We want a place to live. You know, we can come together and agree on those things. And so let's let that unify us and figure out when our brother or our sister is, you know, being unlawfully detained or unlawfully imprisoned or unlawfully harassed, you know, that's them. That's not happening to you. But if you continue to let that happen, it sure is going to eventually happen to you. And so we need to stand up for each other, and we need to reclaim what's been lost, you know, over these years. And we've got to know what that is and how to do that. And that, you know, is another thing. The film doesn't end with, you know, this doom and gloom. It's going to give you hope, and it's going to show you what you can do and how we can, you know, rise up together and get this back. So
I love it. I'm so grateful that you took this on, and your background of doing documentaries and your integrity and everything. So grateful to you for doing this, Sarah.
well, thank you, Lisa. You've given me such a great opportunity. And so I'm always so grateful, and for you having me on and continuing to help promote it and get the word out. Because when the time comes, we're going to have some good screenings in several different states. We'd love to have anybody who can come to those screenings fill the theater. We may be doing some pre-sales of Blu-rays that you can buy before. And, we'll have links of where you can go and watch the film. So there's going to be multiple distribution outlets for people. But the biggest thing is, to unify us all, we really would love to see you come to a physical location, sit in the audience, watch it. Let's talk about it. Let's, learn from each other, meet one another.
And we've had some people offer in our community to pull that together. So we might want to do a campaign where if you have a location and you want to pull people together and do a screening, and we do that. And our goal was to do it across the country all at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So we'll keep meeting, and great place to start is watching part 1, which you'll have a link to, and then you can come into our community and watch parts 2 and 3 and continue to hear about this exciting film getting made.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lisa. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, sweetheart. We'll see you soon.